if your circle is not a clear representation of the ideas and standards that you want to have, you need to rethink that. But the thing is that you have to love yourself through the whole journey. Black families, that we are a certain way, and when our child starts to attribute those signs of being the way that we are, all of a sudden it's a problem. How is it a problem? Hello and welcome back to another episode of A Black Girl's Orbit. I am your host Zara, and I'll be your host from now until forever. Hi, this is episode 7. Are we episode 7? This is episode 7. Okay. I feel like this is gonna be a hefty one. I feel like this is gonna be a very deep topic. I don't know how much we're gonna cover. It might go into the next episode. Who knows? But my baby is napping, so we're gonna get into it very quickly. I was watching a YouTube video, and a girl was talking about becoming your own beauty standard, and I feel like as black women, she was talking about as black women how we have to see ourselves as the beauty standard, and it will teach us to love ourselves a bit more and be more free in who we are. And I feel like when she was talking, I had loads more to add to the conversation, so we're going to talk about it. I feel like the angle that I'm going to come from is a bit different because, in my opinion, when we are trying to change something about ourselves, we very easily make it something negative that we're trying to change and make it positive. But the thing is that you have to love yourself through the whole journey. The journey is going to be long to get to where it is you're going to. If it's to lose a certain amount of weight, if it's to look a certain type of way, if it's to heal a certain thing, if it's to change a certain thing within us, even if it's to overcome a certain belief system that we have or change our perspective on a certain thing, there is going to be a journey. There's a process that we have to go through, and it's not going to be easy the whole entire time. And so if you are looking at where you are at this current moment as negative, as bad, as unhealthy, as not beautiful, as not pretty, whatever it is, as fat, as whatever it is, it's going to affect you along the process. And it's going to be harder for you to love yourself through the process, because through the process you have to give yourself a little bit of grace. You have to show yourself a little bit of love. You have to be kind to yourself, because the process is going to be long and there may be obstacles. And so if you are just constantly saying, well, where I was at is so negative, so bad, so ugly, so disgusting, so fat, whatever, it's going to make the process even harder. And I know it's easy for me to sit here and be like, yeah, just, love yourself through the process. No. We're going to get into how exactly you can go about doing that, and how you can learn to give yourself a little bit of grace and learn to love a little bit of who you were at each time and at each part of your journey, and during the process of becoming the best version of yourself, of seeing yourself as the prize, as becoming the beauty standard that you want and just are in general. Because where you are at now is, your mindset can be just as healthy as where you are at if you had all those things, right? In order to get there, you have to get your mind there. So you have to start looking at yourself at this current moment as the person who is those things, who has those things, and who possesses the things that you want to be and want to look like and want to exceed in. So hi. Yeah, let's talk about it. So we're going to come at this a little bit different, because I feel like, we're going to come at it a little bit different. We're going to talk about first backgrounds, and how we know, as if you're black, or any type of minority ethnic group, you know that having representation matters. And it doesn't start from what you see outside, it starts from what you see at home, right? And so if we talk about, for example, a standard of beauty, when we're talking about ourselves and what we find as beautiful and what we see as beautiful, we can easily look outside of ourselves to try and figure that out, right? We look at TV, we look at TV shows, we look at movies, we look at teachers, we look at authority figures, we look at that type of thing, instead of people who walk down the road, instead of looking at the people within our family. And I feel like I'm so grateful that I was raised with a very strong sense of self. Now, that teetered and tottered at a certain time. I had to figure it out again. And I feel like you can know yourself when you're very young, and then you go through a process of finding yourself again, and then finding who you want to be in adulthood. And that's like a whole different thing that we can talk about at some other point. But I was able to have that very strong sense of self, very strong sense of values and understanding that I'm it. Like, black women are it, right? And that started from at home. That started from the family that I was around. That started from the people in my environment and how they talked to me, right? And then how they taught me to talk to myself and how they talked to each other. Okay, so it's easy to, and now that I'm a mum, I'm understanding how important that is. My son thinks handsome is his name. Like, he thinks handsome is his name. He's one, and I say hi handsome, and he looks at me like, yeah, me. I know you're talking to me. Do you know what I mean? Like, that is so important because it it creates a sense of identity. It creates a sense of self. It creates a sense of confidence in who you are and what you're looking for. Because if I'm raised with a sense of, oh, everybody outside of me is pretty other than me because no one calls me it, then it's going to affect you. And so sometimes that's the first place we have to look. If you are currently at a sense of self where you don't feel your best, you don't feel that you are the standard of beauty, you don't feel like you are gorgeous, you don't feel like you are a pretty girl, if you don't feel like people are attracted to you, or you don't feel like you gain attraction from others, then this is where we have to start, right? We have to start at what type of identity were you given around beauty and stuff like that, around your confidence, around your voice, around the color of your skin, around the size of your body, right? All of those things matter, because while I was given a strong sense of self, everybody in my family is quite big on my dad's side. Like, they're just bigger boned, they're tall women, they're just bigger. They're St. Lucian, so they're just bigger. They eat good food, and I'm not. I've never been big. I was chunky when I was young, but I'm 5 foot. Like, I'm just not tall. So while I was very confident in who I was, when I was younger, because I was chunky and everybody else is big, so it was like, this is normal, this is great. Yeah. She's chunky, she's good, like, she's solid, right? That's what my family would call it. She's solid. If you're solid, it's good. Like, this is a good thing to be solid, right? The more meat on the bones, the better. The more padding, the better, right? And I was solid and I was dancing, so I was muscly, but I went through a period of time where I just lost a lot of weight. And when I lost a lot of weight, my family were going, are you sick? Something's wrong. Like, are you sick? This is not okay. And I've never been chunky again. Like, I wouldn't necessarily say I'm solid either. I'm not as skinny as I was at that point in time, but my body is just not set to be solid like my family's. It's just not set to be like that. And I'm shorter than all of them, and I'm teeny tiny, and even my mom's solid, but she's a big woman. So it's like, maybe if I get to some point in time and age, I'll be solid like that. But right now, I'm just not. I'm a teeny tiny girl. So even when I got pregnant, everyone was like, you're pregnant? You didn't even put on any weight. It's like, what do you want me to do? I'm tiny. I'm 5 foot. I'm a size 10 to 12, like between 8 to 12, I fluctuate. I don't know what you want from me. Okay? But my family was constantly saying, like, oh, you're small, something's wrong, you're small, like, or something. And I was internalizing it, like, yes, okay, something's wrong. But if I was to look outside of myself, right, because we're talking about the first line of protocol, the first line of representation we have is our family. Their words matter to us. If I was to look outside of myself, skinny models and white women on TV and even black models on TV, the thing was to be slim and slender and skinny, and that was it, right? I was that at that point, but I was getting told, you should be bigger than that. Something's wrong with you, right? So if I was to look outside of myself, we don't. At that time, we're looking at who matters, and who matters is our family. That plays a big role. And we have to understand that maybe this is where it comes from. So when I went to university, I was like, oh, I need to put on all this weight. Like, I don't like how I look in my body. Like, I feel like something's wrong. And I had to figure out, I literally had to go back and think, Is it because I'm actually wanting to feel, I feel more comfortable at a bigger size, because I was like a size 6 to 8, and usually I'm in between like a 10 to 12. And so I had to go back and figure out, is it that something's actually wrong? I knew something was because I wasn't eating, but do I actually feel uncomfortable in my body at this smaller size? Or have I just internalized all the things that my family have told me? And because I'm so used to seeing the people around me be bigger, that I now have internalized the fact that I should be bigger. Right? And that then is my standard of beauty. I'm only beautiful. I only look good in my eyes because everybody else around me, the women around me, are bigger. I had to figure that out. And I came to a little bit of a conclusion that's more along the lines of, I do feel more comfortable when I have a little bit of weight on me. Like, I was a skinny twig, my head was looking like it was too big for my body. So I do feel comfortable a bit more bigger, but like muscly. It's like I want gym muscly solid, not just like chub muscly solid like I was when I was younger. So I was like, okay, cool. It's in between the both. No, I do still think I'm pretty. I do still think I'm gorgeous. I am still myself, and I still do value myself in this body that I'm in, but I would prefer to have a little bit more weight on me. And also, my health would prefer if I ate more during the day. So I had to figure that out. But I definitely was internalizing a lot of what I saw around my family, because that's what I've seen, right? And so we internalize that, and so you have to create your own standard of beauty for yourself, right? And with that, you have to create a value. You have to create the things around you that will allow you to now shift that standard of beauty in your mind. Because if it isn't who is around my family, because that's the only people that I've seen for a certain time period of my life, then I have to go and find something else. The representation of beauty that I do want to hold, I have to find examples of that in the world. And because I had pinpointed, okay, cool, no, actually, I would like to be a bit bigger, but I want to be a bit muscly. That's what I prefer. Now I have to go and look for that. And obviously, at the time, I was like 18, so it's like social media, girls on YouTube, gym girlies, black gym girlies who have more predisposed on like the shorter side, but have muscles, and were in the gym and did have solid legs and bums and stuff like that, but were made in the gym. They weren't just like got big hips, because that's just not me. So I had to find people who looked like me, that had the ideal that I wanted, and create that as my standard, put that on my feed, right? And that will also allow your brain to shift its understanding from what was your standard of beauty before to what you want it to be, or what you're trying to get it to. And it also allows yourself to give yourself a little bit of grace of like, no, 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 we're okay. And there are women in the world who are just like me and are still beautiful and gorgeous. I think they're still beautiful and gorgeous in their bodies, and they think they're beautiful and gorgeous in their bodies. So I can think I'm beautiful and gorgeous in my body. There is absolutely no point in me have saying that I don't feel that I'm the standard of beauty at this moment in time, but I'm going to go and flood my feed with all women who I think are the standard of beauty, but they just don't look like me. That's not it. I'm never going to be there, right? So you have to go back, and then you have to get realistic. Like, what could I look like from my height, my genetics, the things that I do in the gym, and the food that I eat? What could I look like? Okay, cool. This is more realistic. I could maybe attain that, right? And it's not just, if we're talking about all the things that affect that affect us and our standards and what we see as beautiful and gorgeous, and even what we see that we want from life. It goes home life, we know this, and then school, TV and stuff like that we covered a little bit. But school and the group of people that you surround yourself with also 110% affect how you feel in yourself, right? And if we're talking about at that moment in time when you're deciding, okay, if I'm rewiring my brain, I've now gone back. You've now said, okay, cool, I've gone back. figured out where these things have come from, where these standards of beauty have come from, where these standards of life have come from. Because even if we're removing it from what we look like and our standard of beauty within ourselves, right, and our core identity in that sense, we can also talk about where we want to be in life. If we're talking about the standards that we have for our life, they can often come from the standards that our parents have given us. Or in the last episode, if you don't want the same life that your parents have, then you have to go back and rewire your brain, right? That's what we've talked about. And so that also goes for your standards. If you are looking at all the people in your family and they maybe are happy with part-time jobs or wherever their situation is, and then you're looking at yourself and you're like, well, that's not what I want for myself. I'm there right now, but that's not what I want for myself. Okay, you have to go outside of your family then, outside of the people that you're around, outside of your circle of friends that are doing the same thing, and go and find representation in other places. Go and find in all walks of life people who are doing the thing that you want and understand their journeys. So I think in one of these episodes I talked about you have to understand someone's journey, because it's easy for me to say, yeah, I want to be an entrepreneur, and then go and find an entrepreneur who is thriving in her career and be like, well, I'm never going to be there. My standard has now gone from I want to be an entrepreneur to, oh my God, I want to be like her, like she's at the top of her game. That's a very long way for me to jump. I haven't even taken the first step of what being an entrepreneur looks like. So you have to understand the in between. Okay, cool. She is my standard. Let me go and understand her journey. Where did she start? How long did it take her to get here? What steps did she take? Right? And that can look like autobiographies of Black women in their journeys, and Black women in business. It can look like documentaries. It can look like watching their social media and, you know, like going back and understanding what they've gone through and where they've come from. And that will allow you to humanize the person, for one. Like, you won't idolize them. You want to humanize these people, because then you are able to be closer to them, like closer to achieving what they have. But also it allows you to give yourself a little bit of grace. It allows you to be comfortable in where you're at and where you're starting. And it allows you to feel like anything is possible. Okay, cool. She's here and I want to be here, but she did all of these things, or it took her 10 years to learn all of these things, or she comes from this type of background and that's kind of similar to my type of background and she made it, so therefore I can make it, right? And you see how you're rewiring your standard. You're rewiring what's possible. You're rewiring what's available to you. You're rewiring what you're exposed to. You're taking it from, this is what I'm around, this is the only thing that I can achieve because this is what I'm around, and you're opening your eyes to all that's possible. And it's a must, because sometimes when you have a little bit of an inclination that you want something different, you want change, you don't want to be like your circle of friends. Your circle of friends don't really want much for themselves, or your circle of friends are just comfortable where they're at, and you kind of have an inclination that you want more, you want to do more, you want to be more, or you want to have more. You can very easily shut yourself down. Like, well, no, because nobody else is doing it, so I can't. Or my family hasn't been able to do it, so I can't. My lineage hasn't been able to do it, so I can't. And I feel like as Black women, this is so important, because we can end up in families, in friendship groups, in classrooms where we're getting told, well, you can't, nobody else did, you can't, you can't, you can't. Well, you're just a Black girl, don't talk, you're too loud, you're too much, you're too this, you're too that. Know your place, know your place, know your place. Be little, be little, be little, be little. And it's like, no, actually, I'm a talk. Actually, I have opinions. Actually, I have things that I want to do. And actually, maybe I'm on par with you and your opinion and how much you talk and the knowledge that you have. And you were just intimidated by that. Ooh. Ooh, it could get a bit scary, because, for example, I talk a lot. I've always talked a lot. I have a very strong opinion. And like I said, I had a very strong sense of self from a very young age. So sometimes family would be talking, and at home, in my immediate family, questions were encouraged. Asking loads of questions were encouraged, debates were encouraged, and I guess that's why I talked so much. I had loads of things to say, opinions to be had, but I also wanted to understand the world. I wanted to understand people. I had an innate sense of wanting to help people, but to help them, I had to understand them. And I wanted everyone to be happy. And so if I wanted you to be happy, I need to know you so that I can figure out how it is I can make you happy, right? Some of that was like trauma, but we're gonna look at the positives. So I would talk a lot and I would listen a lot, but I would talk a lot. And when that was outside of my immediate family, so my mum, my dad, my grandparents, when that was around extended family, like at Christmas with my great grandparents and my aunties and uncles and this cousin and that cousin, and they were having debates and they were talking, and I would say my 2 cents in front of a room of maybe 35 to 50, 60 year olds, because I was the youngest great grandchild at the time. They're like, what? What are you doing talking? Like, you can't have an opinion right now. This is not right. Know your place. Go back. Sit down. And sometimes they would encourage it, like, oh yeah, what? Just to see if they could belittle me, just to see if they could shut me down, just to see if they could put me back in my place. But it's like, no. Sometimes I could just read you. Like, sometimes I can read a situation, I can listen, because I'd be listening. I was very nosy. I'd be listening to all the things that are taken in, and then I would have my opinion. And now I've understood that made me so hungry. That made me so determined to fight back. It would happen in class, right? When I would be in school, I would have teachers, often men, sometimes women, but often men, that would be like, yeah, go on, like, have your opinion, and then see if they could belittle me, see if they could rebuttal, see if they could cut me down to size. And it's like, I'm not arguing with you. You're a big grown man. I just had an opinion. I just raised my hand. I just questioned your values and belief system. That's on you. Like, you're a big and grown adult. If you're affected by it, take it, deal with it. Like, we're in primary school, we're in secondary school. Don't get angry at me because I have an opinion or because I asked a question that you didn't know how to answer, right? And this would often happen times in like RE classes, history classes, because that's when you can question the most things, especially what they're teaching you in history and RE specifically. But I was asking a lot of questions and it was affecting my teachers, and I would often get told like, oh, she talks too much. My camera battery died, so I have no idea what I was talking about before, but yeah, I had teachers that would try to belittle me and push me down to size. And now that I'm understanding into adulthood, that severely affected what I saw as my standard for me. Like, my standard for me is someone who is opinionated, who I like women who do have opinions and do talk a lot. I don't want to be timid. I don't want to be cut down to size. Actually, all the women in my family were very opinionated and very vocal and very, very stern with their opinions and the decisions that they made and their actions. And so, why was I made to feel like I should not have that standard when I got that standard from them? Right? And we can often do this in black families, that we are a certain way, and when our child starts to attribute those signs of being the way that we are, all of a sudden it's a problem. How is it a problem? Wouldn't you want your child to be very opinionated? Wouldn't you want your child to make decisions and stand firm on them? Wouldn't you want your child to know exactly who they are and have a strong sense of self and ask questions? Like, this is what we would want from our children. We want them to be raised with a strong sense of self and identity, and you can only find that through asking questions, through talking back at some points, through being highly opinionated. Because yes, at some points we're children, and it's like, at some point it's like, no, you're a child. Like, you're a child, babe. Like, your opinion is going to change as you get older, but in order to develop their opinions, they have to ask questions, they have to learn about the world around them, they have to experience stuff, they have to be maybe a little bit rude and a little bit cocky, because they're finding themselves, they're learning who they are, and they have a strong sense of self, and we should nurture that, right? And as they get older, we want them to continue having that standard for themselves, continue being opinionated, continue making decisions, continue talking up for yourself, continue, standing up for yourself. That's things that we want from them to do in the outside world. So why wouldn't we want from them in the household? And I had to realize that my parents championed me doing it at home, but not around extended family. And they championed me doing it in class, but not when it was causing too much of a problem, right? And so as I got older, I was trying to figure out, okay, where can I be that version of myself then? Where can I be that black woman who is very opinionated? And for a long time, along with some of the trauma, the people pleasing in me kind of took over. And it was like, no, Zara, don't talk too much. Like, no, you're too loud. No. Try not to be like, opinionated. Maybe don't say anything at this moment. Maybe don't have that opinion. Maybe your opinion is wrong. Right? And it's not. It's not. It's an opinion. Everyone can have them. But in order to learn more about myself, I had to express my opinion and then see, okay, cool, maybe somebody else has a different opinion and they express their opinion, and then we learn from each other. But if I just sit here going, no, okay, I'm not going to say anything, neither of us learn about each other or the world, or my opinion doesn't change because I'm just like, no, I can't say it, but I know I have it. And so no one can't rebuttal it, and then it can't change. Right? And so I had to go back and be like, okay, Zara, with all this people pleasing stuff, is that the standard of self that you have? Is that the standard of black women that you want to be for yourself, that you have for yourself? No. The standard that I have for black women is to be more opinionated, to talk more about our experiences, to talk more about the lives that we live, to talk more about our upbringing, to be more vulnerable, and to express ourselves more and be more comfortable in our identity. And in order to be more comfortable in our identity, we have to show it off. Like, be firm in it, be still in our identity, give grace to ourselves at where we are at that moment in time. So I had to start doing that for myself, and some of that looked like taking back the reins of, you're too loud, you're too opinionated, you talk too much, know your place. No. I know who I am. I know my place for myself. You can't make me move out of it. And then I went out into the world and found representations of that. I started to attract women who were very opinionated, that became very strong friends of mine, that were open in their expression of self, that were very strong in their core identities. And I feel like when you are searching for it within yourself, you tend to find it around you, right? And this goes back to exactly what we were saying about representation. It doesn't always look like TV and movies and shows and social media. Sometimes it looks like the core group of friends that you have. And when you're young, that core group of friends highly affects how you see yourself. So it's for our parents, it's for our families, it's for the people who are taking care of us, our caretakers, to hopefully gear us in directions where we can gain friendships and groups that look like us, that we want to be like. And obviously at some point we're going to go through the whole my mom thinks my friend isn't good for me but I love my friend stage. We're going to go through that and we're going to learn about ourselves. But even down to the sense of like, they're black girls, okay, well, if I'm around all black girls, then I think I'm also pretty, right? And I know in the next episode I'm going to get into female friendship wounds, because I had black friends, or I wanted black friends. I yearned to be around black women and have that strong sense of black women community. And I was often shunned or told that I'm too much for them, or that I am not. Yeah, I'm a black girl, but it's like, but your hair is too curly, like this is too that, da 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 da. You're very light, so it's like, are you really black? Next episode, next episode. But it affected me, right? It affected me. I had a very strong sense of self until I gained some black friends, and it was like, okay, maybe not, like maybe not. And I'm going to add to that another thing as well, is that was very much affecting me until my mum took me home, until my mum took me to St. Lucia. And it's just a different type of love. And I was watching Candice Brathwaite. I think that's how you say her second name. Please don't get. I love her. And when I was watching, I think it was a TikTok that she was. I don't know if it was a TikTok or a YouTube video, but she was explaining how when she went back to Jamaica, the type of love that she felt for herself, like she felt it rise within her, right? The type of confidence that she felt within who she is as a black woman, where she comes from, her sexuality, her identity, her femininity was enhanced because she was around people, around environments, around her country, right? Of people who saw her as the standard. She was gorgeous and beautiful in that place, right? And we can lose that when we're over here. When my mom took me back, and I've been a few times, but it was when I was very young. And I feel like if there's anything that you can do and anything that you take away from this conversation, if you are a black woman, go home. Like wherever it is that you call home, go home. And if you don't know where home is, just find more places that look like home, right? Travel to the Caribbean, travel to Africa, go to those places, immerse yourself in the cultures, and you will realize very quickly that you are the standard of beauty. Okay, as you are. Don't have to change nothing, don't have to add nothing. You are the standard of beauty. And when I went back, I was just immersed in how much, because I was very young, free. The children are free. We were frolicking around at the time. It's like, you obviously health and safety and things like that, but like children just be frolicking around. Like it's just what they do. They're fine. They're safe, but they're fine. They're allowed to be children. They're free in their expression of self, but also they are loved, and the women are catcalled every single place that they go. And it's not like catcalled like, oh, I'm going to take you home and do something to you. No, it's like, you're gorgeous, you're beautiful. And I would get told by my mom, I distinctly remember being there. And my mom being like, oh, she's gorgeous, your daughter's beautiful, she's gorgeous, oh, she's so gorgeous, she's so beautiful. That affects you, right? That, I internalized that. I was like, oh, I'm gorgeous and beautiful. Like I said, my child thinks his name is handsome. He thinks his name is handsome, right? It affects us. It affects how we see ourselves and what standards we have. And I saw black boys and and very, very quickly was like, yeah, that's a bit of me. That's a bit of me. That's where my attraction lies, right? I enjoy black men. Like, I think they are my standard of beauty when it comes to men. And now I have a black son, so they better be my standard of beauty, because how could I love him and teach him to love himself if I don't also love black men? You know, we just can't, right? And maybe also that affects us with our mums, because sometimes they don't love themselves. So how can they teach young black girls to love themselves if they don't love themselves? And it can get real deep, but we're not going to talk about that in this episode. But even if that is your experience and that is your case, at some point we get to an age where we can say all of these things that we put on ourselves. We've been affected by all these outside situations, all these outside experiences, but at some point we get to decide what we want to hold as our standard, what we want to hold for our standard of beauty, what we want to hold for our standard of life, what we want to hold for our standard of health, what we want to hold for our standard of achievement. All these things, we at some point, I would say maybe 18 to 20, get to decide what we want to continue, what we want to get rid of, and what we want to change. Right? From our lineage, from our past, from our parents, from our families, from authority, from whoever it is that have affected us in the past. We get to now change it. And through changing it, we have to learn that who we were in those periods of time, who our family is, there's stuff that was going on with them as well. Like I said, if my mom didn't love herself, how could she teach me to love me? And I can't now go and be like, oh, mommy, that's just her experience, right? That's her experience, and I have to find the humanity in her experience and understand that she's just a girl too, right? And the only thing that I can do at this moment in time is teach myself that I am beautiful and I am my standard of beauty and that I am gorgeous, and put myself in environments where I feel that way. And full circle, going home to the place that will make you feel that way is a big part of that. Being around people who make you feel that way is a big part of that. Attracting women, if we're talking about black women, but it could be any type of women who are look like you, similar to you, or hold that appreciation for you and your beauty is a big thing. And that champion your beauty is a big thing. The champion your life goals are a big thing, right? And you know when you're outgrowing your environment. Even if we move away from beauty again, you know when you're outgrowing your environment. If you're in a group of friends who don't want more and you want more, you have to look outside of that friendship group to find more. And as soon as you decide it, as soon as you say it, like this is now the journey that I'm going on, and I am invested in this, and I'm locked in this, it will just start coming to you. But it starts with you. You have to start rewiring your brain to expose yourself to things that are not what you've been exposed to. Oh, on that note, I feel like this is just a bonus in that. I was watching a TikTok and the black girl was saying that she said the naked mum theory, right? And that we can love ourselves in who we are. Like I had a strong sense of identity when I was young, and some of that is also because, like I said, my family were quite on the bigger side, but also had no shame in their bodies and who they were. So my mom was just, it's the naked mum theory. If you know, if your mums were comfortable in their bodies, or just were expressive in their bodies and you got to see their bodies, or even like my aunties, she would just be chilling, like she would be breastfeeding, she'd be doing whatever, but I would see her body and I would see my mom's body, and I was comfortable in my body because I've understood that that's what their bodies look like. And even as I got older, seeing their bodies and my body changing as I got older, that pictures are like, it was like, okay, everything's fine with me because I remember what my mom looked like, or I know what my auntie looked like. I know like things change and they don't look like these white girls. They don't look skinny and tight and everything is petite. No. Actually become in all shapes and all sizes and in all colors, right? And even that affected my sense of self. And even when I went home, that affected my sense of self. When I went back to St. Lucia, when I went to Barbados, it affected my sense of self because it was like, yeah, like these women are comfortable in their bodies and their bodies look so different, and their bodies are still championed around their community. Their bodies are still championed by men. Their bodies are still championed by other women. That was so important for me to see, and it severely affected my standard of beauty. And even now, it's like you couldn't tell me that I'm supposed to look a certain way, because it's like people that I've seen loved, regardless of how they looked in that moment in time, it's like who gives a damn, right? And also you go through experiences, like I went and had a baby and my body changed, and my partner still champions my body. He's still severely attracted to me. He still shows me that he cares and nurtures me and wants to be up on me and wants to touch me. All those things severely affect your mental. And so what you have around you externally is going to severely affect your mental. And so if you're in the process of changing your standard and making your standard of beauty, you need to rethink what's going on around you. From social media, from TV shows, from movies that you watch, from your circle of friends, from your family, from your partners, you need to have a look at it and start maybe weeding out the things that aren't going to serve what you want your standard to be, or that are affecting you and making you feel like you're not the standard. If your circle is not a clear representation of the ideas and standards that you want to have, you need to rethink that. You need to rethink the circle. You know when you're outgrowing your circle. It's when you want different things than what your friends have, or it's when you see something differently than your friends do. And sometimes we can, we have friends for different things, and you place those friends in the categories that they need to be placed in. But for the most part, when you're outgrowing your friends. And it's sometimes when you want a little bit more, You need to start looking for the representation, the experiences, exposing yourself to the things that will allow you to make you feel like what that little bit more is possible. That standard of beauty is possible. I am that standard of beauty right now. Or I just need a little bit this, a little bit that, and I will be to my standard of beauty. But it takes so much more, and at some point I would say between 18 to 20, like, we can sit down and be like, oh, it's all the things that my parents taught me, it's all the things that people once told me in life, and it's all the things that came before me, and it's all the things. And at some point, I would say between 18 to 20, you get to decide now what it is that you want. You get to decide the things that you're going to take in and the things that you're going to leave out. But I'm going to end it here. You might get the audio from before it cut out, because I think I was chatting the things happen. Things happen. If I need to put it out with the audio from the video, then I need to put it out with the audio from the video. Please, my apologies. But I was chatting the things. So what was I saying? But yeah, it is so possible to create environments where you are so able to reach whatever it is that you want. You just have to make yourself the standard. You just have to put yourself in environments where you are going to be the standard, where the standard that you want is easily and attainable. But yeah, I have been your host, Zara. I hope you enjoyed your experience within a Black Girl's Orbit. I will see you next week. And yeah, we're probably going to be talking about black friendship wounds, black girl friendship wounds, female friendship wounds, mum wounds. Yeah. It's about time. That's probably what we're going to get into. It is. So